everyone, greetings of the day. This is Akshita. I welcome you all at the International Society for Telemedicine and eHealth Global Chapter launch. Today we have with us Dr. Elaine, Director, Digital Health and Innovation, World Health Organization, Mr. Frank Levens, retired Secretary, Treasurer, and the founding member of the ISfTEH. We have Professor Yungkap Kwankum, Executive Director for the International Society for Telemedicine and eHealth. We also have Dr. Rajendra Pratap Gupta, Chairman and of the Management Board, that is ISfTEH, and Dr. Pirko. So I hand over this to Dr. Pirko.
Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Pirkko Kouri, and I'm the Vice President of the International Society for Telemedicine and eHealth. And I briefly just want to tell you what our society offers for our members. We offer, for example, a website which gives visibility and exposure and is a repository for information. We also launch newsletters which share news and information among our friends and members, and also over 25,000 additional stakeholders worldwide. Then we launch dedicated announcements which inform members and partners with our member updates, press release, events, collaboration opportunities, and networking possibilities. And also we have events. Last week we had our own conference in San Jose, California, and we also support our member conferences. And we have webinars, and we are so pleased that we are recognized as a non-state actor in official relations with WHO. And I'm so pleased that Mr. Alan Fabric will be part of this launch event. And of course, I'm happy that our society is a global digital health network, and it's a network of hundreds of telemedicine, eHealth, digital health organizations and professionals working in healthcare, industry, research, and government actors. And on behalf of the society, I wish many-sided and fruitful discussions today. And you are, as I said, most welcome. Thank you, and I hand over to Yungkap.
Thank you very much, Pirkko, for that introduction to the society. This is a wonderful occasion for me. I'm charged with the responsibility of providing some historical background to the International Society for Telemedicine and eHealth. So I'll launch into it by sharing my screen. There we go. So I added a subtitle to this title of the International Society over the years, Writing the Waves of Historical Context, because like innovation, where you have to write historical context, because too soon you have issues of adoption, and too late is even worse. Timing has to be just right. The society, in my view, has acted with that adage in mind. So the society was created after two attempts. The initial idea in Norway in 1993, followed by a second attempt in 95. And finally, the society was created in Kobe, Japan in 1997 with a mission to facilitate the international dissemination of knowledge and expertise in telemedicine and provide access to recognized experts in the field worldwide. The initial board, you can see them there on the left, had our very own Frank Levens, who I'm happy to say is with us today, Yarmo, Robert, Michael Nerlich, Ricky Richardson, etc. All of that under the leadership of Dr. Steinar Pedersen, who was the first president. And I'd like to just relate some landmark events in this space with what the society has done. For example, the WIS, the World Summit on the Information Society, Phase 1, occurred in Geneva in 2003, Phase 2 in Tunis 2005. The World Health Assembly resolution on eHealth took place in May 2005. And the creation of the Global Observatory for eHealth, the GO-E, was in 2005. Now, the society naturally responded to these by undertaking a number of actions on itself. Sorry, I go back one more. I think I've lost my space. Okay, here we go. Right. So the society reacted, of course, by adjusting its name from the International Society for Telemedicine to become the International Society for Telemedicine and eHealth. And one of the key things that happened after that was the society spearheaded the effort of Commonwealth health ministers to focus their discussions in 2007, just before the World Health Assembly, to focus those discussions on eHealth, and they put out a common position for the entire Commonwealth in reaction to the World Health Assembly resolution, which occurred 2 years earlier. Our collaboration as a society with the Global Observatory is noteworthy because many of the key informant groups that occurred in countries to inform the GOE surveys occurred with members of the society participating as key informants. And you see on the left there, the third board of the society, which served from 2008 to 2010, is shown there. I'm in the picture, although I was not a board member at the time. I was an invited guest. And the new leadership of the society at the time was Professor Dr. Michael Nerlich, who was president from 2003 to 2011. A second set of events, of course, occurred. The official relations, the society became an NGO at the time. Now we're all called non-state actors in official relations with WHO by action of the executive board in January 2008. Another landmark event which marked our activities were the resolutions passed by the World Health Assembly in 2013 on interoperability and in 2018 on digital health as a whole. And in reaction, then the society was a key actor in the Bellagio series on eHealth, which were held, meetings held in the summer of 2008 with great support from the Rockefeller Foundation and with WHO coordinating those activities. Our collaboration with the International Medical Informatics Association, our sister organization, strengthened to the point where we agreed that in countries where there wasn't enough critical mass to form two societies, that they could form one society which would join both the ISfTeH and EMEA. And of course, you cannot talk about the ISfTeH efforts in the noughties through the teens without mentioning the Meditel series. Our very own Frank Levens is here. He might say a bit more about that. We're key to the publication of special eHealth theme issues of the World Health Bulletin, notably in 2012, where a number of ISfTeH organs were invited to participate in that publication. During this period, we also created our own journal, the Journal of the International Society, and we've since published 3 issues on women in eHealth. And finally, in 2018, when just on the day that the resolution was passed on digital health, the society had a World Health Assembly official site event on digital health. And during this period, the society was led by Andy Fisher, whose picture you see there. And the 5th board meeting in 2015 is shown in the picture as well. One of the activities that the society is engaged in, launched formally in November 2011, was the Global eHealth Ambassadors Program, which aimed at providing advocacy support for eHealth and the use of information and communication technology in general in the health space. This effort was led by the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. He also had, as part of his group of ambassadors selected by the Archbishop himself, Dr. Emilio Rivilla, president of the Gulbenkian Foundation, Professor Fernando Enrique Cardoso, former president of Brazil, Lord Nigel Crisp, former head of the NHS in the UK, now a member of the House of Lords, Peter Gabriel, famous musician, and Mr. Strive Masiyiwa, founder and CEO of Econet Wireless, a telecommunications operator. One of the most interesting things that the Archbishop said during this period was his statement in 2011 that this work, in other words, supporting the work of eHealth, this work makes God smile. We like that very much. Another activity the Society has been engaged in was to recognize major contributors to the eHealth space, digital health space. And in this case, the first laureate of that Lifetime Achievement Award was Professor Louis Laurent from France. And the prize has since been named after him. The prize, you see an image of it there on the left. And other laureates have been Professor Ron Merrill in 2013, Professor Gyoge Miklos Bom from Brazil in 2015, Dr. Pratap Reddy, founder of the Apollo Health System in India in 2017, and finally Professor Jarmo Reponen, who was a member of the first board of directors of the ISfTeH from Finland in 2021. So one of the things we're very proud of in the society is our leadership. As I've indicated, the first president was Dr. Steinar Pedersen, followed by Professor Michael Nerlich, then Dr. Andy Fisher, and currently we have Dr. Michelle Griffith of the US as our fourth president. We're also proud of our efforts in the area of diversity. The first female on the board of the directors of the society was Dr. Moretlu Molethi from South Africa. The first female member of the executive committee of the society is our very own Dr. Pico Curie, who is vice president of the society. And currently we have a female president in the person of Dr. Michelle Griffith. So here we are today with a footprint in over 110 countries and territories and a slightly enlarged mission from the original mission to cover not only telemedicine, but telemedicine and eHealth and provide access to recognized expertise in this space, throughout the world. And as I indicated earlier, we were designated a non-state actor in official relations with WHO in January 2008. So going forward then, we see country chapters as contributing local digital health intel and knowledge sharing, and as part of a global community of practice in the digital health space. We see our work also with the Digital Health Monitor, the GDHM, originally the Global Digital Health Index, together with Health Enabled and WHO. And finally, our efforts in the area of knowledge sharing, the Global Knowledge Commons, which answers the question, who is doing what, where, how well is it working, what can we learn, and what can we use and reuse from it. This initiative was launched formally in 2015 in Rio de Janeiro, and the image on the right panel there shows the cover of the booklet that was published on the occasion. So this is who we are as the ISfTeH, and I thank you for your attention. I hand over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Yunkup. And Yunkup, can you stop sharing so
Stop
that
sharing.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. So I think Yunkup very well encapsulated the history, and also I think geographically we are probably among the most well recognized body Firstly, I thank Dr. Elaine Lebrick, the Director General Health at World Health Organization, for being the chief guest at this launch. We have always been guided by his work all throughout. I'm thankful to Yungkup for having done many things over the past 3 decades, including being at the back of this ISfTH, our honorable board members, and our members across the world who work with us as a society. And today is a historic day, anyways. It's a Universal Health Coverage Day. It couldn't have been a better day for us to launch this. Without digital health coverage, you can't have universal health coverage. It's a precursor to that. I think that makes this more memorable for us, for me personally, for all of us here. But let me get back to what has happened, why we did that. Why did we decide to move to chapters? There is something besides history and geography, and which is very contextual, I think circumstantial as well. So if you look at healthcare, it has hit the reset button. The digital health is now the default operating system of health. And it is coming in with a whole lot of things if you look at. There is AI, there is machine learning, there's so many things happening. So while healthcare has hit the reset button, I think as a society for almost 30 years, we also needed to hit the reset button. For the last 3 decades across the world, we have helped countries across the world adopt digital health, been an active contributor to the World Health Organization through various reports, through various submissions, actively participating in the World Health Assembly. But it was time for us to consider, should we engage more closely with the countries and help them in the digital health journey? And in January, I proposed the board that let's look at the new model of starting ISfTH chapter so that we do better, closer handholding, work very closely with our countries and do that. And I'm thankful to my honorable board members to have accepted the proposal and asked me to drive this. So with this, I'll also come to the fact that it is not new. This is a repetition of how history keeps giving us signals of what's in for change. And I see this as 3 C's of digital transformation. 2019, we got that first knock on the door. We kind of ignored it. 2020 was a bigger knock, and 2022 was like carpet pulled under our feet. And these 3 C's are: quantum computing came in 2019, and what a faster supercomputer can do in 10,000 years, a quantum computer could do in about 3 minutes. We still probably thought, that it's probably a long way from us. Nothing much is going to impact healthcare. But if that was not enough, 2020 we were hit by COVID. So digital consultations increased by 38 times. There was no one during that time when we were all locked in our homes. If we survived, we used technology. That was the second moment of truth and a call to action for us. But we still, as human beings, believe in hitting the wall and then taking corrective steps. So a lot of people during the COVID said that, once COVID goes, we'll be back to our own stuff. But then nature has its own way of telling us. ChatGPT came a year back. Not just it's the most powerful AI tool, is going to be a big driver for healthcare. So as those leaders today who have joined us in this global launch, we need to understand that healthcare is not going to be, without AI. And there is enough work that's going on. And I'll walk you through what are the forces which are driving digital health before we get into the actual chapter discussion. It's very good to have a contextual view of what it is. So while COVID initiated a lot of things, the impatient startups in your countries, in your states, in your regions will disrupt healthcare. The big legacy-based healthcare organizations, which are the big organizations, may not be agile enough, but the startups are impatient enough to disrupt healthcare. So while you are in your digital health journey in your country, you need to create an ecosystem to support them. Then is the fight between market share and share market. All those big fortune companies or the big companies, unicorns, are always in a fight between market share and share market, and the best way for them to make the best return on their what you call equity and dividends is technology. Today, when I speak to CEOs worldwide, they see technology as one that will deliver the most return on their investment and the best return on their shares. And the third is cost of care. Healthcare inflation is hitting everyone. Anywhere in the world you talk, the cost of healthcare is rising, but the outcomes are not commensurate with that. So they see again technology as the holy grail, so one of the forces that will drive digital adoption. Of course, there's a big move worldwide towards value-based care, accountable care. We want more bang for the buck. The cost and the amount of money that governments are investing is not touching almost for some countries 18% of the GDP. So there is a big move towards saying how can technology help us make it more transparent, more accountable, more outcome driven. And then insurance. The insurance companies finally will call the shots and they have to save what they pay out. The best way is to leverage technology. This is one of the big fours. I think payers will also decide how much technology and where to adopt, and they're pushing for it. In fact, one of the most recent things have been how we can use AI to do the claims process within hours, and that's going to be an act now. And the web-centric patients, I will not say more informed, but they're very well Googled patients. This was not the case a decade back, where a doctor verified the prescription. Now patients verify the prescriptions. They check the web. They have access to all the information that probably doctor will tell them, thanks to Google. And then lastly is generative AI. Healthcare is not going to be the same. So when you are operating in your country, it's time to think, how do we support the digital health ecosystem in our country when there are so many forces which are driving the change? And this is not the list which ends. This is the list that starts. We do not know where the end game would be, but technology is going to be the overarching theme and the underlying thought. The facts, the 480As, as I have looked at my journey in health, the first is A, is access. 80% people don't have access to healthcare when they need. 80% people can't afford when they have access. That's the second A. 80% people also have acute care, acute problems. So if you look at the studies, we have done enough studies. 80% of the problems are acute, which can be solved by technology. Lastly, 80% of the issues can be addressed with artificial intelligence. That's the harsh truth, and that's the reality today. And that's why we see the proliferation of technology. And I actually call it this way: the digital health is here to take over, and AI is here to overtake us. So if you're working in your countries, we need to be, knowing this fact. And this is a study that I led during COVID. There are two studies I led during COVID. One was a 127 nation study between April and June, and the other was a 38 nation study. So if you look at this, during COVID and after COVID, you don't see much change. The digital health is going to stay. We're not going away. So in our countries, wherever you're operating, whichever part of the world you are, I think we need to be understanding this fact that digital health is here. It's not going away. So as champions, as enthusiasts, as ones who support or believe in it, I think we need to support it as a institutional manner. So that's where I think as an organization as ISfTeH, we come in. And I believe that healthcare is the last sector to change. We have always complained about it, but it will be the most comprehensive, the fastest and lasting. It will leave every sector behind. That's a firm belief. But these are the reasons. If you look at global health, still 90% of the countries, AI is not regulated. 69% of the countries do not have policies, frameworks, protocols. We saw Europe coming recently with their most comprehensive guideline, but still most part of the world don't have it. So I think as people working in countries, our job is also to look at what are we doing to enable our ecosystems in our countries, to be more regulated or more informed. We looked at Health Parliament, a study which I submitted to Dr. Labrik early this year. And we analyzed all 193 countries, their policies. So 64 out of 193 countries have telehealth policies as per this report. And 38 out of 193 countries have mentioned telehealth in their health policy, which means there's a huge gap and there is a need for societies to engage with their governments, with their other stakeholders as societies, as chapters, to drive policies in those countries for digital adoption. Of course, within ISfTH, as I said, that our duty is to lead the thought leadership across the world, and I coincidentally chair the capacity building working group. So March 2020, we came out our first report on the framework and roadmap for global digital health workforce development, which is there on our website. For those who have joined, is isfth.org. If you go to the capacity building working group, you will find these two papers. We had launched this working group in 2019, 4 years ago. We published report one in the first half of the year, and we published a second report in the second half of 2020, which is ISfTH knowledge paper on capacity building for digital health, a global perspective. Of course, these were primers. I guess work started much before COVID, but we realized that human interoperability and the capacity building, the organizational maturity is more important than technical maturity. And as ISfTH working globally with people, I think technical maturity we have achieved worldwide. So tell us one problem, we'll have 10 technical solutions. But what we need is human capability, the organizational capability. And that's where organizations like ISfTH has done, I think, pioneering work in this field. And what's the need for country chapters? So while there is a health divide, there is also a digital health divide. You cannot rule that out. I mean, if you really look at the system, and where ISfTH comes in is this, that we have a rich legacy of more than 25 years in digital health. We've been working in this field with, as you saw the history that Dr. Juncker, laid before us to look at. The second is cross-border collaborations. This is probably among the only organizations in the world that has a vast network over 100 countries. So cross-border collaboration to learn, to engage, to disseminate. This is where ISfTH brings in on the table for the chapters. Then we are a phenomenal knowledge bank. I mean, I just showed you two reports. Go to our website and see the work that's done by our working groups. Phenomenal work done by ISfTH in working groups. I think people from across the world can engage with our working groups, deliver, contribute and lead. And then one of the biggest opportunities that we see and we believe in, that we can help create the local leadership that we need for global adoption of digital health. And that is one of our visions as moving to the country chapters. Is every country is at a different stage of development, from the economy, from the health, from the digital health perspective. So there can't be a single strategy that we can throw to the world and say, hey, adopt it. We need local leadership to understand the local needs and to adopt health and digital health at a point in time where they are today. The chapter expectations, this is something that has been deliberated for, I think, now close to a year, that what we're expecting out of chapters. That first thing is that, we believe that as chapters will be more engaged with them, will be helping them. So they will also have an annual plan of what they want to do, because digital health can't be left to chance now. It can't be, something that can be off and on. There has to be a plan for the countries, what they want to do, and they submit a report about their annual activities. Then to be a thought leader in the region and country, what we require is driving that thought leadership, or what's the vision, what's the mission for that country, for the state, for the region. Through the chapters, we hope that we will be able to get that, and then contribute to knowledge and policy papers. At the end of the day, if you don't have an ecosystem of academia, industry, and the government, you will not be able to have a balanced view. Digitalization cannot happen out of excitement. It needs to take everyone along. And of course, strongly believe in evidence-based policy and advocacy. And I think if I look at the world's foremost expert, he is today with us as chief guest. Dr. Alain Lebric has done phenomenal work over decades in pushing the cause of the earlier name of eHealth, mHealth, and now digital health. I think we need to look at evidence-based policy and advocacy. And then, of course, you cannot run today's ecosystem without being actively engaged. So we also hope that those chapters who engage with us will be conducting quarterly, 6 monthly, or annual meeting workshops, and also will get an opportunity to host the ISfTH international conferences like the one we do in San Francisco, we have done in other parts of the world. We recently did in Goa. And then, of course, we have a good relationship with many multilateral bodies. We hope that with these chapters, we'll be able to assist WHO and other multilateral bodies through the groundwork that we would have in different countries, working very closely with them. And what's the benefit? So there is a national platform that you will create as ISfTeH chapter with international access. That's one of the biggest benefits you can have, because today we are all globally connected. What's happening in one part of the world, you can learn early on, and you can do it through a national platform. The second thing is grassroots advocacy. While you will have international access, you will also still need to work with grassroots. So as chapters, you will have the best practices and learnings from the ISfTeH network, which is something that is matchless. I think our history, our geography, both together are like unparalleled today. And then lastly, we all have to create and lead a movement called digital health. I personally believe that without digital health, there is no health. There is not going to be any health without digital health. That's going to be the base layer. So I think as chapters, we expect that you will create and lead a movement in your state, in your country. And that's going to be one of the big key benefits of being a part of the chapter. And what our thought is, and which we are going to launch and approve over the next 1 quarter, is that ISfTeH, the country name and chapters. I'm just giving an example. This is not the way it is, as an example, like it's done. So like ISfTeH Malaysia chapter, ISfTeH Japan chapter, but in the US we'll go with state chapters. And as we speak, we already have the expression of interest from many countries and 2 states from the US. But that's how this chapter is going to evolve as our global initiative. And as we say, we are global partners in digital health. And if you have, interest in partnering with us as ISfTeH chapter in your country or in your state in the United States, do write to us. This is our email, chapters@isfTeH.org, or to me at founder@parliament.health. And let's create this movement and make digital health as a part of health a reality. Thank you so much. And I'll now pass on Dr. Elaine Lebrique, who is our chief guest. Dr. Lebrique, firstly, thank you so much. I know you're super busy, and I salute you for the work you have done. We may be 30 years old as a society, but the way you have moved the needle from the word digital health to being a reality is unparalleled. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Rajendra. I thought you were at first saying that you and I were 30 years old, which gave me much satisfaction and happiness. But then I remembered that that was not at all true. But let me first, thank you so much for your gracious introduction and invitation. But I must begin by correcting something on the wonderful poster, because if anyone is the chief guest here, it is not I, but Dr. Yunkap, who I see as one of my great mentors and role models in this space, and also to be joined by Dr. Levens and Dr. Khoury, who have really been leaders in this space. So allow me, please, to relinquish the title of chief guest to someone who's much more deserving. And I only can hope to fill the shoes that Yunkap has graciously stretched in his time at WHO and supporting this space of digital health and telemedicine. So first, congratulations on this exciting new chapter for ISTFH. And I just want to maybe say a few words of what we're doing in this space and how we see this collaboration really strengthened by this important new initiative. I believe you can see my slides. Is that correct? Yeah. So, as all of us know, and I don't have to introduce this to you, the dream of telemedicine is not new. It goes back many, many years. The moment we could send sound and images through the airwaves, people recognized the opportunity that this represented in terms of giving people access to information, no matter where they lived in the world, and giving them access to expertise, no matter where they lived in the world. So we've come a long way from these early visions in the 1920s of what a clinician could do remotely to this new concept of a virtual hospital, where, leaving brick and mortar behind, we now move into a paradigm where patients can continue to be supported by a health system even while they're at home, or even when they're at a smaller facility that may not have access to the expertise that's needed to provide them the attention and care that they deserve. So I think the concept of telemedicine, of telehealth, of remote care for patients has really grown with the technology layers that you've described so nicely, Rajendra, but also I think in us thinking about pushing the boundaries of equity and accessibility so that all people can have access to the same or similar qualities of healthcare no matter where they live. I was just coming back from India a few days ago, where I was able to see the power of artificial intelligence being used to enhance telemedicine, in this case using high-resolution cameras pointed at non-interoperable, non-connected digital devices, but using AI to read the real-time telemetry from these bedside monitors, enabling remote consultation and a virtual hospital scenario to be stood up even in remote parts of India where interconnected systems and the latest technologies were not available, simply by using artificial intelligence and high-resolution cameras. So the world is changing rapidly, and it takes courage to embrace change. And I think today, Rajendra and colleagues, IStFH has really done this. It's taken courage to revisit and look back at the 30 years of contributions that it has made to this space, and challenged itself to new heights and new frontiers. So it's a courageous move, and we're with you here at WHO to support this next chapter. I think as you've pointed out, Yungkap, in your nice overview of the history of this space, which I'm not going to try and replicate, but you touched on the fact that WHO has in many ways contributed to lending credibility and lending science to this growing space of eHealth, digital health now. And when you and I worked together in the days of the mHealth initiative, really going through the careful scrutiny of ensuring that what we are doing was actually effective and science-based, so that countries with limited resources were not expending these resources in ways that would harm them, and by potentially harming people as well. So over the last several years, we've been active in this space. This last year has been exceptionally active for WHO, with a number of guidance coming out around artificial intelligence, but also the launch of 3 important global initiatives, which I'll touch on very briefly. As many of you are aware, and I see the work that IStFH is doing as part of the fulfillment of this document, which is the Global Strategy on Digital Health. It is not a WHO document. WHO merely serves as the secretariat for this important vision that member states have articulated as a roadmap for where they want to go during this 5-year period, covering 2020 to 2025. There are a number of tasks and challenges and objectives within this global strategy that outline work that is for the Secretariat, for member states themselves, and for partners in the ecosystem. So many of you who have joined this call today are mentioned explicitly in this global strategy, and you should be familiarizing ourselves with this document to understand how what you are doing is advancing what member states have requested, what countries have requested that we as a community do to advance this vision of digital transformation. Here at WHO, I'm privileged to be the director for this new Department of Digital Health and Innovation, where our singular focus is on strengthening the capacity of governments to be in the driver's seat of that digital transformation, making sure that they have the tools, guidance, and necessary support, quality assured technical support to drive their national digital transformation. But we're not alone in this. Even groups like the World Bank recently have published focal articles and priority agendas around digital health, identifying how they now recognize, after the experience of the pandemic, that digital is in fact essential as a part of health system resilience and as a part of building future health system capacity. But the pandemic also sent one key message home, and this is what it is. It is the fact that we are moving from an era of digital experimentation to an era of digital transformation. We no longer should be thinking about digital solutions, whether these are telemedicine or direct-to-patient support applications. We should no longer be thinking of these as band-aids to solve singular problems, but rather be thinking holistically, as Rajendra has nicely put it in his comments, holistically as digital transformation. The financial sector, the education sector, even the agricultural sector is undergoing this transformation. Why should health also not follow suit? The pillars which enable this transformation are well known to all of us in the room today. This goes back to a historic document that UNCAP was essential in driving back to 2012, when the ITU WHO eHealth Toolkit was first published, identifying these essential building blocks that enable digital transformation in the ecosystem. When WHO published its first ever evidence-based guidelines on digital health interventions, telemedicine was called out not once, but twice as 2 of the evidence-based pillars out of 10 that were recommended to member states as being solid investments in health system strengthening across a journey from birth to death, and all of the health events that fill that gap between those 2 important milestones in all of our lives. I think the pandemic also shared with us a few eye-openers. And Rajendra, you pointed out this idea of 38% or 38x gains in telemedicine adoption globally. And this is just looking at the US. I mean, the countries where telemedicine was having a hard time grabbing hold, in a record amount of time saw a dramatic increase in adoption. And this is not because, as you have pointed out, we don't have the technology or the tools. In many cases, it's not the systems, it's the people. And I point this out because in the US, as an example, there were actual restrictions to the use of telemedicine that were lifted during the pandemic as a way of enabling life-saving technologies to be used to support people in a crisis. And this kind of enforcement discretion was replicated around the world in countries where there were laws, perhaps antiquated policies in place that were preventing telemedicine from being used from across borders within countries as well as across borders across countries. And so I think it's really been a wake-up call for all of us to examine what we need to have learned from the pandemic, and moving forward, how we need to leverage these technologies to ensure we're delivering equitable health for all. And no better example exists in my mind than the astonishing, record-breaking solutions that have been put forth by India as one of our example member states with telemedicine services at a national level. Recently, in February of this year, they celebrated 100 million teleconsultations completed on the eSanjeevani platform. 100 million. On average per day, they have about 300,000 patient encounters being undertaken on this platform. So it's really not a question of can we do it. I think at this point, it's considering the political choice of not doing these solutions that clearly the public is asking us to undertake. We also see telemedicine as having a key role in health equity. And so whether it's bridging geographic barriers or ensuring that vulnerable populations have access to high quality care despite living in rural, remote areas, but also ensuring continuity of care, which to this day remains the privilege of very few people around the globe, but it should be a basic fundamental health right. So coming to some of the things that WHO has contributed over this year, and I think should be seen as opportunities for ISTFH to leverage as part of its growth agenda. There is the Global Initiative on Digital Health here on the top left, represented as 4 key pillars, looking at converging and bringing together the global activities around digital health, strengthening at a country level. So focusing our efforts to listen carefully to what countries want, making sure that the resources and tools are converged and aligned to support those country needs, and then ensuring that groups like IStFH, the lessons that you learned, the what works, as Junkap said earlier, can be amplified throughout a broader network of networks that take the lessons from IStFH and amplify them across the global community. On the right, we have the Global Digital Health Certification Network, which is a new piece of global health infrastructure that WHO has launched to facilitate the cross-border sharing of health information and health credentials. This piece of infrastructure is going to be critical to enable and support cross-border telemedicine. And I'll speak more about that in just a moment. And last but not least, as you presented, Rajendra, the opportunity and potential of artificial intelligence, we see that the new initiative, the global initiative on AI for health, brings together the powerful capacity of the International Telecommunications Union, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and WHO to work together to support countries in their quest to harness the power of AI while ensuring safety, efficacy, and ethical implementation of these solutions. The Broadband Commission also this year, or last year actually, launched a landmark report known as the Future of Virtual Health and Care that was co-led by Dr. Tedros and Dr. Anne Ertz of the Novartis Foundation, focusing on practical suggestions for countries to ensure virtual healthcare could be delivered, both during the pandemic as well as after it. We also last year launched a consolidated telemedicine implementation guide. And for those of you who'd like to learn more about this, it's freely available on the website. And if you have the ability to scan the QR code in the bottom of the screen, you will be taken to that particular site. We also released last year standards for the accessibility of telehealth services, making sure that this concept of equity by design is baked into the DNA of how we do digital health and telemedicine, making sure that as we move forward with innovations and technology, people are not left behind because of their disabilities. We also launched together with PAHO and the IDB a tool for assessing the maturity level of health institutions as a precursor to evaluating the ability to implement telemedicine services in those particular hospitals. The amount of resources and technical briefs continue to grow within the libraries of WHO, but they remain on the shelves of these libraries, if not for groups like IStFH, who take these pieces of carefully curated and expert-derived knowledge and insight and translate them into action on the ground. So we see the partnership with your network as being essential to amplifying the content and valuable information that's within all of these resources and making sure they guide and impact those on the ground who are leveraging these to build and implement highly effective health services. We're working currently on a synthesis report to look at how to guide the purchasing of telemedicine service. And I think a number of you who are in the audience are likely helping us to develop these robust tools. Last but not least, we also want to celebrate the activities that we have done with the inclusion of IStFH, including a recent workshop on cross-border telehealth practice, which the report for which will be coming out early in 2024, which tackles implementation hurdles and challenges across health, trade, and other viewpoints. And we're really grateful to have the World Trade Organization as core partners to this exciting piece of work. I'll briefly say that we are also focusing some of our efforts on helping to build and strengthen digital health competencies, because as we train the future health workforce, we must ensure that that training includes knowledge, attitudes, and practices around digital health and telemedicine. And so we will be reaching out to this network to ensure that your voices are heard as we move forward in strengthening the digital health capacity of our future health workforce. There's a lot we have to do together. We have miles to go before we sleep. I am inspired by champions of digital health that you have gathered today in this room. I am humbled by the opportunity to speak with you all on this important occasion. And I just want to say thank you and know that we are here as your partners and friends in this new activity. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a delightful and healthy evening, afternoon, and morning, wherever you are in the world.
Thanks, Dr. Elaine. And as always, not only that you are inspiring, you are provocative. I think you have changed things, and over the last 2 decades we have worked together. You made a difference, and now that you lead the global digital health, you are shaking people to say adopt it. And the presentation that you have made, I think is watched by people. I see over 100 in the audience, and over 18,000 people whom we are webcasting on LinkedIn through Health Parliament. And we promise you that we'll be your foot soldiers in your vision that you have set for the world for digital health. And with these words, I say thanks is too small a word for you, but I know that you're always busy, but you still take out time because you mean people to adopt digital health, that you do all within your means to do that. Over to Frank Levens, who was among the visionaries who led this. Frank, is over to you for your word of thanks. Frank, you're on mute.
It should be now. Okay, can hear me. All right, thank you. As I said, for leading this session, I guess my role is here to say thank you, but thank you to not only yourselves, but all the other people who for so many years have been part of this road, which has started, as it was mentioned, more than a century ago, with very simple means like telegraph and whatever, and which now is evolving further in areas like the artificial intelligence. And sometimes it's hard to stay on track because it goes too fast. I personally am from the older generation, meaning that I'd like to see time do its work, but you can't stop the rhythm if it's there. It's still a warning that we all have to wear in the back of our head. All this is by humans, for humans, with the help of technology, but we stay master of that. We have to stay master of that. Yes, if you say that artificial intelligence is to overtake us to a certain limit, of course, because it may be too dangerous to let technology only drive it. We created technology, and we must make sure that we master it as well. Nothing against technology, far on the contrary. And it's good that now the consensus is there to control that, and with the help of the leading bodies in the world like WHO and ITU, WHO, the medical part, ITU, the technological part, and other organizations, of course. And then recognizing the global aspect of it, which means that each part of the world, each nation, region has to play its own role and take that over. So after active participation in the ISfTeH for 20 years, I'm glad to see that there is this next step, the new dynamic to create and to enforce the nation's participation which in fact back 20 years ago in 2003, when the ISfTeH, at that time we didn't even mention eHealth, the ISfTeH was revamped and with national members being the core of it, non-obstant the participation of all other possible actors like individuals, corporations, associations, institutions, of course. And all this now has to come together. It's an immense task, but that's the good news. It will never come to an end. We are now in the digital health era, not only in health, but as it was mentioned in others as well. And I think we need to keep that up, and it's up to the younger generation. Hence also the importance of the education and training, making sure that the younger generation, which has the advantage that it has from the beginning, is learning to work with that and not with a pen anymore. And they are growing into this. So there's not going to be another way for them to handle this. We can only hope that they will do it properly based on the history of what has happened. Never forget history. It's so important. So many things have already been written in there. And we need to make sure to keep that alive. And there have been so many books already written also about history. We have mentioned several of them on the ISfTeH website as well. So again, thank you and Godspeed for this new initiative. And I'll be following it from a distance as a member of the ISfTeH. And wish you all good luck and thank you, and look forward to further reports about it when due. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish you all happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, and a great year ahead. And with this, this session comes to a close, but the work on chapter starts now. Do stay in touch. We need to create this movement and take it forward. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you all.